Welcome to today's episode of Deep-Dive Café. I am Avery, and I'm here with Paige. Stick around, we'll be back shortly. All right, so we're diving into some serious legal drama today.
Oh, yeah.
Sean Diddy Combs, 10 weeks behind bars and fighting like crazy to get out on bail.
You know what's wild about this?
Yeah.
Is that it's his fourth attempt.
His fourth attempt at bail.
Exactly, and the judge is definitely side-eyeing that.
Oh, for sure. Especially with these charges. We're talking sex trafficking, abuse. It's heavy stuff.
We've got a whole mountain of court reports and articles to dig through.
Definitely a lot to unpack.
Yeah, and I think what's really got people talking is whether this is a case of the justice system working differently for the rich and famous.
Oh, totally. Yeah, I mean, you got this music mogul, tons of money and influence, facing charges that could put him away for years.
Exactly. It's forcing us to think about power and how it plays out in these situations.
Absolutely. Okay, so let's start with the charges themselves. What exactly is Diddy accused of?
So the prosecution is alleging that Combs was involved in what they're calling freak-offs.
Freak-offs?
Yeah, basically, it's kind of graphic. Recorded sexual performances, sometimes with male sex workers.
Oh, wow.
And they're claiming that women were forced into this, sometimes even transported across state lines.
So we're not just talking about like a one-time thing.
No, they're trying to paint a picture of a pattern of behavior.
And some of this goes back to 2016, right? I remember there was that hotel surveillance video, the one that supposedly shows Combs assaulting his then-girlfriend, Cassie.
Right. And that's a huge part of the prosecution's case. They're saying it shows a pattern of violence and a willingness to cover things up.
How so?
Well, they claim that Combs tried to bribe hotel staff to delete that footage.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But Combs' lawyer is arguing that, he's saying that the incident was taken out of context.
Yeah.
That it was part of a long and complicated relationship. Says it doesn't prove anything about these trafficking charges.
Okay, so back to the bail issue. This is Diddy's fourth attempt to get out. What makes this time different?
So this time they're offering a $50 million bail package.
$50 million?
Yeah. Backed by Combs' $48 million Florida mansion.
That's insane. Even for Diddy, that's a lot of money. And I'm guessing 24/7 security too.
You got it. They're pulling out all the stops. But previous judges were worried about witness tampering.
Yeah, that seems like a valid concern.
And the prosecution is still hammering on that.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah, they're saying he can't be trusted. They claim that he's been communicating with his lawyers while in jail, but through unauthorized channels.
He's trying to get around the rules.
Right, and they even allege that he's been trying to influence potential jurors on social media.
Wait, hold on. Isn't all communication between a lawyer and client confidential? Attorney-client privilege and all that?
Yeah, but the prosecution is saying that Combs is going beyond that. They're saying he's trying to manipulate public opinion, which could taint the jury pool, create bias.
Oh, I see.
But Combs' defense team is firing back. They're saying, look, he's just trying to respond to negative press coverage, which he has every right to do.
Okay, that's tricky. It's kind of gray area, right?
Yeah, for sure. It'll be interesting to see how the judge interprets it.
Definitely. Now, what about those handwritten notes Combs took in jail? The judge ordered the prosecution to destroy their copies, didn't he?
Yep, that goes straight to attorney-client privilege.
So those notes, they could have information about his defense strategy.
Exactly. And the judge wants to make sure that stays protected, which, it's a super important legal principle. It means people can talk openly with their lawyers without worrying that those conversations will be used against them.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
But couldn't someone say that Combs is hiding something by keeping those notes secret?
It's possible. I'm sure the prosecution is thinking that. But the judge has to balance that against the right to a fair trial.
Right.
Imagine if you were accused of something and couldn't talk freely with your lawyer because you were afraid those conversations would be used against you later.
It wouldn't be a level playing field.
Got it all.
So is that why Diddy's lawyers are bringing up the case of Mike Jeffries, the former Abercrombie & Fitch CEO?
Yeah, they're pointing out that Jeffries got out on a $10 million bond for similar charges.
They're basically saying, hey, why is our client being treated differently?
Right. But the prosecution has a counter-argument. They're saying, look, Jeffries is 80 years old, no criminal record. Combs has a history of run-ins with the law.
So they're saying different circumstances, different treatment.
Exactly. And then they brought up the fact that, this is interesting. Federal agents found rifles with scratched off serial numbers at Combs' places.
Whoa, that's not good.
No, it plays right into this idea that he might be dangerous.
Okay, so we've got a complicated situation here. A lot of factors to consider.
Yeah.
What do you think? Is Combs likely to be released on bail this time?
I mean, it's really hard to say. The judge has said he'll rule promptly, but there are just so many things to weigh.
Right.
That $50 million, that's not chump change.
Yeah, it's a statement for sure.
It shows that, that Combs has resources. And with the 24/7 security, maybe the judge will be less worried about him taking off or messing with witnesses.
Yeah. But then there's those allegations. And those rifles with the serial numbers scratched off, that doesn't look good.
No, not at all. The prosecution's definitely going to use that. They're going to say, hey, this guy, he's a danger, he can't be trusted, and they'll bring up those past arrests too.
Like they're building a case.
Exactly. Trying to show a pattern.
It's almost like we're trying to put together a puzzle, but some of the pieces are missing.
Yeah.
Like, what really happened in that hotel room?
Yeah.
And were those freak-offs? Were they just a one-time thing? Or is there more to it?
It all comes down to the evidence, really, and how each side presents their case. We'll have to see what else the prosecution has. Besides that video and the claims about witness tampering, I'm sure they're hoping more witnesses come forward. Anyone who can back up their claims about those freak-offs or the alleged coercion and abuse.
But Combs' lawyers are saying all the sexual activity was consensual. So how does that fit into all of this?
Well, that's the million-dollar question. The whole case hinges on it. The prosecution has to prove those alleged victims were forced or coerced, and that Combs knew about it. If they can't, the whole thing could crumble.
It seems like this case is getting a lot of attention. And not just because it's Diddy. It's like it's raising all these questions about power, about how the justice system works.
Exactly. This case is bigger than just Sean Combs. It's a reflection of what's happening in society right now.
The whole #MeToo movement.
Yeah. People are looking at power dynamics, especially between men and women, and especially in places like Hollywood, where there's a lot of pressure, a lot of competition.
Everyone's watching to see what happens. It's like a test case. Does the justice system really treat everyone the same, even if you're rich and famous?
Right. If Combs gets out on $50 million bail, some people are going to say, see, money talks. But if he's denied again, it could look like he's being targeted because he's a celebrity.
So no matter what the judge decides, someone's going to be unhappy.
That's how it goes with these high-profile cases. They become these lightning rods for these bigger social debates.
So let's just focus on the legal stuff for a minute. What could happen here? What are the possible outcomes?
Okay, so the judge could grant Combs' request for home detention.
Meaning he'd be out of jail, but stuck at home.
Right. Probably with an ankle monitor, a curfew, and definitely no contact with witnesses.
But given everything, that seems unlikely, right?
Yeah, it's a long shot.
So what else?
The judge could set a lower bail, somewhere between the $10 million Jeffries got and the $50 million Combs' team is proposing.
Trying to find a middle ground.
Exactly. Acknowledging the charges are serious, but also recognizing Combs' right to reasonable bail.
And then, of course, there's the possibility he denies bail altogether.
Right. Combs stays locked up until the trial.
And even if he does get out on bail, that doesn't mean this is over.
Right. Not at all. It's just the beginning. The prosecution's still going to be building their case, gathering evidence, talking to witnesses.
A long road ahead.
It is.
Okay, so what should we be watching for as this moves forward? What are the key things to pay attention to?
Well, any new evidence is going to be big. Witnesses, documents, maybe even recordings, anything that sheds more light on what happened.
Okay.
And we got to watch for any rulings from the judge, like about whether those handwritten notes can be used or that hotel surveillance video. Those decisions can really change the direction of the case.
What about the jury selection? Will it be hard to find people who haven't already formed an opinion about Diddy?
Oh, that's going to be tough for sure. Both sides are going to be looking for jurors who can put aside whatever they've heard and just focus on the facts.
That seems almost impossible.
It's not easy. These high-profile cases, they get so much attention.
So let's zoom out for a second.
Yeah.
What does this case tell us about the whole idea of due process? Especially when you have someone like Diddy involved with all his fame and money.
That's the big question, isn't it?
Yeah.
We have this principle, the presumption of innocence. It's fundamental to our legal system.
Meaning everyone's innocent until proven guilty?
Exactly. Combs deserves a fair trial, just like anyone else.
But we can't just ignore these accusations either.
Of course not. And we have to think about the alleged victims, too.
Their stories are important.
Yeah, they were brave enough to come forward. And what they went through, that matters, whether Combs is found guilty or not.
It's a tough balance.
It is. We have to make sure the justice system is fair to everyone, to the accused and to the victims. And it's even harder when you've got someone famous involved. All the media attention, public opinion, it can really sway things.
It's like we're walking a tightrope.
You said it.
We want justice to be served, but we want it to be fair.
Right. And that's what makes this case so fascinating. It's making us think about power, about privilege, about how our justice system really works.
So what's next? What happens now?
Well, we're waiting on the judge. He said he'd rule on the bail issue promptly.
So we'll know soon whether Combs gets out or stays behind bars.
Right. But no matter what happens, this is just the beginning.
We'll definitely be keeping an eye on it.
And it's a story worth following. It reminds us that even the most powerful people have to answer to the law.
And that we have a responsibility to make sure justice is served for everyone involved. It's easy to get caught up in all the legal stuff.
Yeah.
And, Diddy's a celebrity, so it's a big story.
Right.
But we got to remember, there are real people involved in all this.
Absolutely. It's not just headlines and court dates. There's a human cost.
Exactly. And these accusations, they're serious. We have to think about those alleged victims. They came forward, shared their stories.
That takes a lot of courage.
Yeah. And their experiences, what they've gone through, that's important, regardless of whether Combs is found guilty or not. This changes their lives.
No doubt about it.
And then there's Combs himself. He says he's innocent, but he's facing some serious consequences. Even if he's acquitted, his reputation, his career, they might never be the same.
It's a huge shadow hanging over him.
And we can't forget the families on both sides.
Oh, absolutely.
They're caught in the middle of this whole mess.
Yeah.
The stress, the media attention, it has to be incredibly tough. It's a good reminder that these cases, they're not just abstract legal battles. They affect real people's lives.
It's a powerful reminder and a call for empathy.
Yeah, for sure. So as we wrap up this deep dive, what are some key things our listeners should take away from all of this?
I think this case really shows how money and fame can twist things. It makes you wonder, does everyone really get a fair shake in the justice system?
Right. And what about the court of public opinion? Can that sway things too?
It definitely can.
We're also seeing how power dynamics can play out, especially in places like Hollywood, where it's all about who you know, what you've achieved.
It's a whole different world.
And it reminds us that these cases are never just about the people involved. They reflect bigger issues in society. They start important conversations, even if those conversations are hard to have.
Absolutely. So much to think about.
Definitely. Any final thoughts for our listener?
Stay informed. Watch how this case unfolds. Pay attention to what evidence comes out, what arguments are made, and don't just take things at face value. Ask questions, think critically.
Great advice. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. It's been fascinating and definitely thought-provoking. Until next time, keep learning, keep questioning, and keep the conversation going.